yeah, that's it. You just tuned in to the Digital Cartridge Podcast with Sean and Micah. Listen up as they deliver you the most epic show covering movies, television, video games, and wrestling. And now, here's Sean and Micah.
Today's episode of the Digital Cartridge Podcast is brought to you by Toaster Strudels. Let's face it, mornings are rough. Between the hustle and bustle of the AM rush, it can be difficult to maintain a healthy and balanced breakfast. That's why we've crammed 16 ounces of pure USDA disputed goodness into every buttery toaster strudel, bursting with gelatinous, unrefined sugar and topped with super moist and extra creamy sweet nut butter. Breakfast will become your favorite part of the day. And with 45 different artificial flavors to choose from, you'll never run out of ways to ruin the afternoon in front of you.
Toaster strudels may cause bloating, heart palpitations, digestive discomfort, difficulty swallowing or breathing, sexual side effects including erectile dysfunction and vaginal closing. If you experience a stroke lasting more than 5 days, please consult your physician. Toaster strudels in no way endorses consumption of raw product, but will look the other way. If sudden death occurs as a result of eating toaster strudels, discontinue use immediately.
Toaster Strudels. If you don't like them, fuck you, dude.
You know, if you were to have your very own like custom toaster strudel flavor, what would you pick?
Cocaine? No.
Coca.
Man, I don't know.
Would you like a ranch dressing toaster strudel?
As much as I use ketchup, I guess I could say ketchup.
That's gross, dude. I mean, just thinking about it, like just imagine a toaster strudel that tastes like that. I mean, maybe like a Yoo-hoo flavor toaster strudel if it was real.
Like a strawberry Yoo-hoo. That would be bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, we need to talk to our sponsor and get on that. In other news, I'm Sean.
Hey, guys. Micah.
And, of course, this is the Digital Cartridge Podcast. Unfortunately, we had a host for this, but we had some mic issues on his end. So, Bobby from Universe Retro, we're still giving you a shout out no matter what. And I know we'll see you soon. And I know you left us a voicemail for what we're going to play after this whole episode, but it's not going to be the same without you, man. It's not going to be the same.
Freddie got him.
Yeah, I know. He must have fell asleep, and then it was over. So
Freddie got fingered.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages?
Wait, that's
Daddy, would you like some sausage?
That's the wrong movie.
No, but I would like Freddie to be in that movie, possibly. That would have been a good, would that have been another fourth wall like this movie? The movie that you came here for, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the most meta movie of meta movies before meta was even meta. Is that right?
How much meta could a meta chick, like you said that like 20 times?
I know. I mean, but I mean, honestly, we'll get into it, but I mean, this is what you're here for. Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and we'll talk about that soon. But other than that, we are recording a week early, so a lot of the content we might talk about in the water cooler and what we've been up to and stuff like that might seem a little off dated, but it's because we got real life scenarios, and we're a bi-monthly podcast, so sometimes stuff happens, so we're recording a week early. So even
bi-weekly.
down to the bi-weekly, however you want to say it. I mean, it all ends up the same. I think it's the same.
Bi-monthly,
Tomato.
bi-weekly, just bye-bye.
Yeah, no, I'm not going that far. Somebody knew where I was going, because I know when we were talking, we were in that group chat with Bobby earlier. He was like, "Can we be naked?" I was like, "That's up to you, man, because we're not on the mic." He's like, "So just three naked dudes, doing a podcast." And I was like, it's not gay if it's a three-way.
It's okay when it's in a three-way. It's not gay when it's in a three-way.
It's not gay if it's in a three-way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, if it is three dudes, it might be a little gay, but it's okay. Nobody can see us.
I got my dick in a box.
Will yours even fit in a box?
I plead
Maybe a
the fifth.
65-inch TV box, maybe.
I plead the fifth.
I mean, sometimes I have to edit out that boom that you make, and it's kind of like that boom that Dave from the Cape Podcasters makes. When it's always
heavy-handed.
Boom. Yeah, but I can always imagine that's just you, your dick flopping out on the table, and I'm like, damn, I got to edit that shit out again.
That's just me trying to adjust in a seat.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, this is why you can't podcast naked, Micah, because you just go around flopping,
When it's all just like
Yeah, pretty much. And I was like, what was that? And he's like, my dick. So what you drinking on? I hear you drinking on something over there, buddy.
Little Angry Orchard.
Oh, is this going to be one of them podcasts, or you started on a later note tonight?
No, this is the first one, so we're good.
Okay. Whew, thank God. Whew, man. Yeah, it's been
Right.
it was interesting, fun edit on that one, which I want to apologize to anybody that listened to that one. I'm sorry about whatever happened to my audio, how like the end of my words got cut off on random sentences. I have no idea what happened to that, and I wanted to go back and re-edit it, but when I was to re-upload it, it was to lose all of our like listener count. So at that point, I was like, I didn't hear a lot of complaints except for if I didn't mention it, a lot of people wouldn't even caught it on. So I was just like, whatever, it's done. It was a good episode. On to the next one. You can only go up from here. Just like our 5 million page shares that we had over the weekend on Facebook.
Dead, done. On to the next one. Dead and done, and on to the next.
This is not Music Town, buddy.
Man, I've been singing a lot. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me.
I think you need to go to a concert, bro.
Yeah, I got tickets. We got tickets to go to oh, who the fuck is it? Her mom bought us tickets. Oh, Nickelback and somebody else.
Stone
It's-
Temple Pilots, isn't that?
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Nickelback,
it's-
Stone Temple Pilots, and Switchfoot.
Yeah, but I mean that's like Stone Temple Pilots, like 3.0, basically. I think is that what you would call it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll hopefully we get rooms in Nashville. That way I can actually get drunk for this one.
Nice, nice. If you go to if you end up down here, man, just holler at me. I'll run into you at least for like an hour or something.
Yeah, maybe I'll actually get the day off work because I tried to call out sick this week because everybody in the household had flu and I felt like shit with a fever and was told that I don't get sick days. So that was real fun.
Yeah, man, I would have. Did you get it in writing? I mean, I know a good personal lawyer.
I mean, the problem is like my office is legitimately back away from everybody and nobody has to come in there.
Yeah.
So I just kind of sequestered myself in my office all day, but I still felt like shit all fucking day.
You know what you need to do is get one of those like air freshener timers that shoots off, like every like minute or whatever, but like shove a Lysol can in there instead. So every time it just shoots Lysol.
We've got one of those things in the bathroom, in the employee bathroom, and it always scares me when I sit down to take a shit and it goes off.
Man, when I go back to Memphis to visit my son and stuff like that, my dad has one of those in just the spare bedroom. Just I guess keep a fresh smell up through there. And I didn't know he had one in there. And it was like I got home late, hanging out with some friends, and it was like 1 o'clock or something like that. And I'm passed out, and all I hear is psst, like every like minute, like psst, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And of course, it's like damn near spraying on me. So I like literally just ripped the thing apart, in the dark because I was like making funky noises.
I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, basically, I mean that's the last thing you want is an annoying sound like that because, I have a Mickey Mouse tattoo on my leg, and it kind of resembles a story like that. Growing up with my grandma, I always stayed at her house more than I even stayed at my parents' house, and she had an old Mickey Mouse clock, and you could hear it from across the house just going tick, 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 and I don't care what time of day it was. So I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I could just hear that ticking, and if you lock your mind on something, you're gonna be stuck on it all day long. So I'd go across the house, rip I think the one AA battery out of it, and of course the next day she'd be like, "Sean boy, why'd you take the battery out?" I'm like, "I heard that damn clock," and that's when she passed away. I have a tattoo on my left arm, and I have a tattoo on my right arm that are full sleeves. My right arm is basically a tribute to my grandfather, which was in the Navy. But the one on my leg has stuff that reminds me of when I was with my grandma. So like I have a Piggly Wiggly tattoo. She used to always take me to Piggly Wiggly when I was a kid, and Piggly Wiggly is originated in Memphis. So like when I left, I wanted something to remind me of Memphis, and then of course they had stuff to deal with her. And so there's a guy named Matt Gonick, which is a destructive pop artist in the UK, and he had this drawing of Mickey Mouse open up a poison bottle. And I was like, man, how does this relates so well of me in this damn clock? So I was like, this is the perfect tattoo. So I mean, those are two of the items I have that relate to that. And I don't even know how we got here, but we got here. Was it through a dream? I don't know yet.
Yeah, when you try to sleep with the every 1 minute you don't have dreams. It's
Yeah, I know. Yeah, until I wake up and the claw comes out of it.
or it comes out of your seat while you're falling asleep driving, and it comes for your dick.
Oh man, yeah, but it gives up because it's like, oh man, you got a little baby dick. I'm gonna move on up.
So I got my ass kicked again.
You know, you know what the bad thing about that is. I even joined a Fast and Furious group and shared that actual Battlemania in there.
That was a waste of time.
I know, because I know you saw me in a group message earlier. Somebody was talking about, this person's only in 141 groups. I was like, man, I'm in over 200. So I was like, that ain't shit. But that's because, like, when we have these Battlemanias, I try to, really just not to take a advantage on the win, but to really just promote us out. So like if I find a subject, I'm like, oh, let's pick this movie. I'll try to join, whatever groups are, good for these just to get our, cross promotion up and out.
Well, if you aren't familiar with Battlemania, that is a poll that goes up on our Facebook page the day after our episode post, and it lets you have a deciding what's a good word for it? A deciding presence, a deciding vote in an episode that we will get to and cover at some point in the future. So the most recent one we did, we used random.org. Sean has a spreadsheet that goes through and it'll hit on like 80s horror, 90s action, or 2000s comedy. And it chooses a subject for us. And then we each choose a movie from that period. And then when we get to our movie episodes, we're going to cover the movie that wins the Battlemania poll. So that's a way that you can directly influence our episodes. But our most recent poll was over 2000s action. Is that what the classification was, right?
Yeah, it's 2000 actions.
And we had a total of 113 votes. And with 61% of those votes, or actually 69 of those votes, you won. And do you want to tell everybody what you won with?
Yeah. I mean, I won, but as a whole, we win because we have to cover it in the end. Is The Dark Knight, which honestly, I'm kind of excited for this, and I kind of hope to bring in a guest host for this one, even though if they've covered this one before or not, maybe I can get somebody on for that. I'm praying. Hint, hint, if they're listening.
Maybe to do some super stuff.
Maybe, or an impersonation or two that they like doing for that movie. I don't know.
My measly ass 39% or 44 of the votes was for Fast and Furious Chapter 1 or Volume 1 or whatever the fuck they want to call it.
The first installment, the OG, the original, which is
The one when they actually did racing.
Yeah, a very iconic film. I mean, basically, up to I think what is it? Tokyo Drift is like the last good on any racing, and they're like, all right, let's go, fight diamond thieves and Ronda Rousey and everything else.
So we have chosen, or it has been chosen for us, the next genre, and that is 80s action movies.
Yeah,
Which
this is
you get to tell everybody what movie you're going with since you won.
yeah, and I mean, I'm excited because like 80s action, that's a freaking long list of movies, and I mean, it can go far. And I'm picking RoboCop. I hope this one wins. I mean, I'm not gonna force a win on it, but I just want to talk about shooting people in the dick the whole time. But it is what it is. But Michael, so what's your battle up against RoboCop?
Because I am on that hardcore Brooklyn Nine-Nine kick still, I'm going Die Hard.
Nice.
That dude talks about Die Hard in that show so fucking much. And if Die Hard wins, we can have the debate on if it's a Christmas movie or not and get into that whole bullshit.
Yeah, the biggest debacle of all time. Is it a Christmas movie or is it not?
So, like I said, Battlemania poll does go up the following Wednesday when the episodes go up on Tuesday. We typically give you 5 days to vote. And like I said, you get to directly influence something that we're going to cover. So if you'd like to see us cover Robocop, or if you'd like to see us cover Die Hard, when that poll eventually happens, or when the poll happens, choose one, and then we will eventually cover that movie.
Or if you want to yell at us and say, like, man, why didn't you pick, like Commando or Top Gun or anything else? Let us know too. I mean, like I said, it's a wild array of movies for that whole genre.
Yep. And the genres always come back. So
Yeah, and the good thing is like it's actually like it feels like this list is ever expanding because I'm like, oh, we need to add in just like kind of a superhero only, section or like a anime only, just to have, to bring the broadness out just a little bit. So it's like I said, it's forever change, growing bigger. But since we picked 80s, action, it's not going away. I mean, it's got the chance to pick it again and again and again. So I mean, you never know. We could be in the same nightmare.
Hey, meet me over by the water cooler. So, what's up? I gotta fill you in on what I've been watching. Oh, jeez. This may contain spoilers.
so you know how in like our little group I always get called the Facebook creeper?
No. Yeah.
You should totally watch. And if you haven't, you need to. Don't fuck with cats on Netflix.
I was, but I like cats, and like I tried to watch it one night, and Angelica was like, "Don't start, don't do it." I mean, maybe it's something I need to watch on my own, but obviously not with her because she saw it and she did not like it at all.
After the first episode, it doesn't really involve cats anymore.
Okay, yeah, I
It's
mean,
only 3 episodes, and the first one they're each an hour. The first one after that, it doesn't really involve cats as much. It's more about what the dude like transforms into or what he becomes.
I got you. I mean, I've seen it, but I needed somebody else's opinion on it, so that's a plus. And I have nothing to do for a couple days.
Yeah, and like these people, like you talk about fucking like social media creeping and like being like all OG, like diving into like stalking somebody on the internet. These people were like taking pictures of this guy and like straight like the dude was in Canada, so I don't want to spoil a whole lot of it. But homeboy was in Canada at one point, and they're like, "Okay, well, you see this street light that's behind him? The crossing traffic sign has a black exterior plastic, and those are only available in Toronto because we Googled it. And then we were looking at the gas station, and the gas station, there's only 40 of those in that area, but you can see the concrete apartment buildings to the right. So on Google Maps, we basically walked every gas station until we found like super fucking in depth.
So they're like super sleuths on the internet, basically. Also,
Yeah. Yeah. Like hardcore. It's really good. Still on the Brooklyn Nine-Nine shit. Like what I just said a while ago. I am almost caught up. I'm like right at the end of season 5. So I've got one more season to binge through, and then season 7 just started last week.
yeah, that's amazing. Have you caught up? I mean, I know like it's gonna feel like I feel like we're gonna be off talking about this, and it's just like a week early on this recording. But what's up with the Masked Singer? How are you on that?
Yeah, I'm caught up through the first 2 reveals. So
Yeah, because I knew the first reveal was Lil Wayne. Like even listening to it, I was like, dude, and I was kind of like shocked that the judges couldn't really tell because he has an extremely distinct voice, and I was like, how'd you not know this is Lil Wayne? I mean, he can't even hide his voice, because it's who he is, especially like Robin Thicke, somebody that's done all those movies with him in the past. And I'm like, bro, you've done 5 songs with him and you can't tell this dude's voice.
I didn't figure out the second one. Everybody keeps talking about the White Tiger is Hulk Hogan, but that's going to end up being a Gronkowski.
Gronk, yeah, it's got to be Gronk. I mean, there's some of the things he says, like he said brother once, and I was like, come on, that's I understand that's the Hulk's vocabulary, but I mean, it's you can tell it's not him easily. And I mean, the thing is though, like I think Gronk's what 6'6" and what Hogan's 6'7" maybe. So I mean, I mean, it's one of those things. But we might be thrown up for a loop. But it's got to be Gronk though. I mean, with the whole Super Bowl references and everything else.
Yeah, and he even made one of his comments was, "I've gone to the mat for one of my friends, and like he's had a special appearance at WrestleMania. Like
Yeah.
he's jumped in the ring for WrestleMania. So I think that's where that come from.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, it's an exciting season. I like how there's what 18 total participants on this one. So I mean, we're only on Group A yet. And I mean, we still got to get to see Group B and C. So my biggest thing is I wonder who the turtle is. I want to say that it's a Backstreet Boy or like a New Kids on the Block, but it's hard to say. I mean, I even thought maybe it's one of the dudes from Good Charlotte, possibly.
Um, One of my super guilty pleasures starts back this week. So when this episode drops, the first episode will have aired. But season 4D40 of Survivor starts back.
I'm glad their seasons aren't like means 40 means like 40 years, almost like The Simpsons feels like, is what on 30, which feels like it's been 30 years for The Simpsons.
Now they run 2 seasons a year, so
Yeah.
it's actually the 20th year. But they they had a hype episode last week that was like a recap, going back through and going over all the highlights from the first 20 years. And we did a draft, to where we went in, and every player that's returning is a winner, like they have won a season. um so we did a draft, and we've got 5 or 6 of us that are going in and like chose players to, and there's a point scale and everything to decide like who will be the Survivor fantasy champion.
Best of luck, man. I hope you win the whole pool on that one.
Oh, it's just for funsies for right
Oh,
now.
okay. I got you. I actually, ended up watching a series on Netflix and I binged it. I know you haven't watched it yet, so I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but I ended up catching Netflix's Lock and Key, which the name was uber familiar because I think it was back in 2017 they pitched Lock and Key to Hulu, and they were like, "Nah, we don't want this," And then Netflix obviously picks it back up with a little bit of a different take to it, but it's good. I mean, it's kind of like the Chronicles of Narnia meets Stranger Things meets Riverdale meets The Haunting of Hill House type of atmosphere. So I talked to some friends. They're obviously fans of the Lock and Key graphic novels, and they're like, they butchered it. It's not the same. I was like, dude, it was originally made as a TV adaptation, so what you're going to get is obviously not going to be like that. I mean, people bitched about Ready Player One, how they read the book and it was nothing like it, But I'm like, you got to they're going to do their best. And one thing about this is kind of like the way they did The Mandalorian. Every episode has a different director, even though, I mean, it flows well, but you can tell that like somebody directed every episode totally different. So it's got different feels to it. So I can understand, a little bit people are angry on that. But I binged the whole season in a day, and I waited until the next day to watch the season finale just because I was like, man, I cannot believe that I watched 9 episodes in a row. But I was like, when you're homesick, you got to do what you got to do.
I added it to my list, so it'll probably be one of the next series I start. I don't want to start anything until I finish Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, it's a fun show. I mean, it might feel by like the third episode or fourth episode, it gets a little wonky and then it like catches back up, but it's good. I mean, it's got the whole Riverdale like teeny bopper, like, teenage feel to it a little bit, but that's just because you have teenage actors. So, I mean, you just got to adapt to it. And I mean, the biggest thing too is I have to remind myself, we're in, the 2020, where everything's changed, everything's changed in like the last 4 or 5 years, like between acceptance and everything else. So like this movie, even, when it comes down to like actors, it's a little different, but I totally enjoyed it in the end.
There are some TV shows. I looked ahead a little bit as far as things starting whenever the episode does come out.
Mm-hmm.
So I always share the hot ones. Those episodes when they drop, I always share those to the page. They have a Hot Ones game show that is starting on True TV. That'll
Yeah.
be on February 18th. And then the new season of Better Call Saul, which is the spinoff from Breaking Bad, starts February 25th.
Nice.
Nope,
Yeah, and then
23rd, not
ooh,
25th, 23rd.
yeah, you better put in that correction.
Yeah,
Of course, I went to the,
somebody will yell at me if I don't.
oh yeah, or I'll have to just add it in the show notes and put a oopsie. But I did go to the movies to catch Birds of Prey, which I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. If anybody does watch it, there is after credits, so stick around for that. But in the mix of it, like we mentioned before, I'm a double feature guy, and I've seen almost every movie on the reel except for like a handful. And unfortunately, one of the movies was Like a Boss that I ended up seeing, which being a chick flick, I mean, it is what it is. I felt like the whole day felt like it was chick flicks because obviously Birds of Prey, even though it's an action flick and it's in the whole DC universe, it's still in the end that's a female like movie like to the T. I mean, Ewan McGregor is basically the only male actor in the whole thing except for a little bit of his henchman. But like I said, I watched Like a Boss. It wasn't bad. Whatever, watch it again? Hell no. But it is what it is. And I hate, like I said, we're recording this early because there's movies that I must hopefully see by the time we record. Like on Valentine's Day comes out, you got Sonic the Hedgehog, which has almost been a year since the whole internet, bitched about the way he looked. So you got that coming back out. And then you've got the Blumhouse's Fantasy Island, which some people are complain about this movie, but I think it looks pretty good. I mean, the it's from the producer of Get Out and Halloween, so it's going to have some kind of oomph to it. Because the last bit of whole horror films that have come out, I just haven't been attracted to at all.
It definitely looks like a Blumhouse movie.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's they're good with the whole style, and it's going to be decent. I mean, it's I can't tell you it's going to be great. I can't tell you it's going to be trash, but I mean, I can at least tell you it's going to be enjoyable. I mean, other than that, I mean, that's all that I've really got come out. I mean, there's movies that are coming out soon, like you've got The Boy 2, which is about the Brahms doll, which is another horror movie that's coming out on February 21st. And then I want to say that the Call of the Wild movie is coming out too on February 21st, which, have you seen the preview for this, Micah?
Is that the Harrison Ford one?
Yes, with the worst CGI I've ever seen in my whole entire life.
Yeah, the dog looks like super out of place.
Yeah, and the dog shows way too much emotion, more emotion than even like Disney understands that you can't put emotion on these animals like they did with like the Lion King and all these other like live action films. And this dog, he doesn't even look anamorphically correct, which is a big issue for me. But when I saw it, I was like, man, I know the whole Call of the Wild story, but I was like, why did you do this? Like, CGI is constantly making movies worse.
Yeah, I'm not. That's a movie I'll probably never watch in my life.
No, it's not only on my list of things to ever really see, but I mean, I'll probably catch it in passing, but it's nothing that I'm gonna like stop what I'm doing to go see. I also caught the trailer for Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it reminds me of some horrible shit from like the early 2000s that he was in.
They did another Bloodshot movie. That just was it was like a B or C movie. Like it wasn't a huge like release. With the dude that played the Green Ranger, Jason David
Okay.
Frank.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did a Bloodshot movie as well, but it just didn't have the same budget.
man, I might have to check them out side by side because this Bloodshot looks like a B film all day long, but it's like it is what it is. But man, I was like, Vin Diesel stuck in that one persona, kind of like Jason Statham stuck in that one persona. That's all they play, and I understand that, but I'm just like, you got to move on with taking shit movies. Like,
Yeah, hopefully by the time next time we record, I'll be done with Brooklyn Nine-Nine and I'll have more shit to talk about.
yeah, hopefully you'll be caught up with the whole Lock and Key by then.
That's the goal.
And now, what you came here for, the main topic.
The kid Dylan that plays in the film, what do you know him from when you look at him?
Full House and Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah, Kindergarten Cop. All I can think about is,
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
which even though, he's from Pet Cemetery also, but he wasn't really vocal in that movie.
He's Full House too. He was like in the class with the twins.
Yeah. Which I mean, he's an iconic kid, child actor in those times. But I mean, before I even get into this movie, does always the acting in all these Wes Craven movies seem like everybody talks extremely slow like this sometimes?
I think they're doing that to build tension. Like that's how they're directed to do their dialogue. If I talk slower, then you're going to pay more attention to the details.
Yeah, because I mean that's what I've even from like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, the way that she talks in the whole movie. I almost the bad thing is like watching this movie like makes me not want to call Nancy because like you're struck to all their original names in this movie because everybody this is a fourth wall movie. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, like all the actors, which I'm gonna get into in a minute, like Wes Craven goes by his real name. Heather Langenkamp, which is plays Nancy, she goes by her real name. I mean, there's just so many people, in this that go by the real name. So like when I'm trying to like talk about people, I'm just like, what's their real name now? Because like in the first movie, we always know her as Nancy. I mean, that's where she's from. But like, watch this movie. I never got more confused watching a movie in my whole entire life than I did watching this for the very first time when I did watch it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was such a meta movie. Like when I turned it on and I was like, "Oh, it's a fake out where it's a movie within a movie." Oh, wait, it's a fake out again.
Yeah, it gets wild. So we're talking about Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and this is a 1994 American meta slasher film written and directed by Wes Craven, the original creator of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the final installment in original series, even though it is the seventh installment in the franchise. It's not part of the series continuity. Instead of portraying Freddy Krueger as a fictional movie villain who invades the real world and haunts the cast and crew, they're responsible for his films. In this film, Freddy's depicted closer to what Craven originally intended, being much more menacing and less comical with an updated attire and appearance. Now I'm gonna pull a timeout. Even from the first movie into this one or any of them, Freddy always has felt comical to me to an extent. But it's also like I know your brother mentioned he doesn't like Freddy Krueger, back in these films. So the thing is like Freddy really was more of a guy that terrorized people than anything else. Like he had fun fucking with you before he killed you.
The only big difference I could see, like, because I still thought it was pretty comical too. His makeup just looked 10 times better, and I'm sure that's just because of the fact that this movie was made in the 90s versus the 80s.
Oh yeah, and the thing is like so like Heather Langenkamp. This movie starts off with her husband, which is the guy that plays Chase Porter, which is David Newsom. And did you know that in real life, Heather Langenkamp's husband is a special effects artist guy?
No, I did not have a clue.
Yeah. So like this movie, like, and that brings the whole meta factor even deeper into this. So like, but he didn't want to get into the movie. Just I guess it just felt like too much getting into it. But so they played this guy, David Newsom, to play her husband in the film. So this movie's got all kinds of craziness, and I'm gonna get off into the synopsis in a minute. But like this, like I mentioned earlier, this movie confuses the shit out of me. Like probably 3 or 4 times in the whole movie.
Yeah, I had a hard time keeping up with if we were in a dream, if we were in the actual movie world, or if we were like meta world, and like it felt like Inception. Like I kept going back to what level of Inception are we in right now?
Oh, I can agree with that 100%. And the thing about this is, it's not even really a Freddy Krueger movie if you want to get onto it. I mean, like the title even says, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and it says from the maker of Nightmare on Elm Street. So I mean, even though they say this is in the installment, it's kind of not. It's more like a demon that takes over the whole Freddy vibe and goes with it. But you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as a Freddy film, or you can look at it as not as a Freddy film, because this movie goes literally three different directions.
Yeah, I mean it almost could have been billed as Wes Craven's New Nightmare with an appearance by Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, because the original name for this was A Nightmare on Elm Street 7: The Ascension, and obviously they wanted something. They didn't want to really just tie it in 100% because this movie really only ties in with 1 and 3, which are the ones that had Nancy in it. So I mean, I think when mentioned early, I didn't mention it, but a lot of the read ups were Wes Craven. After they brought him back to do the 7th film. They were like, "Hey man, like we want you to do number 7." And he went back and rewatched 1 through 6, and he was like, "Dude, these make no sense. They're cartoonish and they're not faithful to his original theme." So it was like, let me do this. And he originally pitched this whole theme for this movie, New Nightmare / The Ascension, whichever one you want to go with it, to New Line Cinema during the time that Dream Warriors, which was Elm Street 3, came out. So he had this obviously in his mind for years before that, because this film is the 10-year reunion after the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's kind of cool. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, so I mean, this has, and like if you're watching this movie, it's got a lot of throwbacks. And I'll catch some. I know one of them catches really good when Tina died in the original one in the bedroom. There's a cut back to that in this movie as well. So I mean, there's a couple, like I said, throwbacks to the original film. But like I said, it's not even really a Freddy film. But we'll get into the synopsis real quick and run through this and talk about it, debate about it, and maybe stop every once in a while and talk about it. So just as the first Nightmare film opened with the creation of Freddy's infamous glove, New Nightmare opens with the creation of an updated, more sinister and sleeker looking glove. As the maker of the claws appeared to chop off his own hand in preparation for attaching the claws to his own wrist, the other people on the set wince, and the director Wes Craven encourages the effects specialist to pump more blood. Soon he yells, "Cut!" Print that, Gretchen. Heather Langenkamp, her husband, Chase, and their son, Dylan, are wandering around the set of the new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Presently, the claw, which is only a prop a minute ago, comes to life and starts maiming and killing the special effects crew. Dylan is now gone, and the claw advances to attack Chase. Heather screams, waking up in her own bed, in her own house with Chase during the earthquake in Los Angeles. So one cool thing about this, though, is when they started recording this movie, the earthquakes hadn't even happened in LA during that time. So even though we're getting these crazy earthquakes in between this whole movie, later on scenes in this that you see from like destructed buildings and everything are from the actual like 94 LA earthquakes. So they actually they said, "Hey Heather, we need you to go back in your car. We're gonna shoot a couple scenes and catch all this actual like free footage that we're going to be able to use for the movie," because they only had an $8 million budget for this film.
The thing that I kept thinking about, and it could just be because I'm watching it now and I never watched it before, and I know Wes Craven did Scream as well, but it reminded me of Scream 3 so much.
Oh, dude, all this movie did was set up for Scream itself. Like, by him being able to do this and bring horror into a real life atmosphere where like, fans and stuff like that become like the actual like killers and stuff like that. This movie started that. This was like the inception pill to start that whole thing.
Yeah, that makes sense because he did all the Scream movies as well.
Oh yeah. After the earthquake dies down, Chase has a couple of scratches, which are the very same as he had received in the dream. What this causes Heather to wonder if they were sustained in the earthquake or during the dream. Heather reveals that she's been receiving harassing phone calls from someone who sounds an awful like Freddy, but they've stopped for the last couple weeks until now. So Heather is a guest on a morning show the very same day that they discuss the whole 10th anniversary of the Nightmare films. Also, as part of the talk show lineup, Robert Englund, as himself, tears through a screen dressed up as Freddy Krueger to surprise Heather. Now, what's cool about this is they brought back the original Freddy look, which is cool, but going back to where Wes Craven said, this is a very comical look. Personally, like that original Freddy look, if you're supposed to be a burn victim, I mean, it portrayed pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it checks out, and it's still, I think even as a comical look, it's still scary. I mean, it works.
Yeah, which is, that obviously disturbed Heather, with all the things that were going on. Producer Bob Shea, which is actually Robert Shea, I don't know, he goes by Bob in this, asks Heather to visit his office at New Line Cinema, explains that Wes Craven is working on a script for the new and final Nightmare film. Heather is asked to reprise her role as the main character, Nancy. but decides against it with her own recent nightmares and disturbing phone calls and the disgruntlement over her son's change in behavior. Bob explains that her husband, Chase, is also working on the film and creating a scary new glove for Freddy, much to Heather's dismay. Now, Chase lied to her earlier in the film and said that, hey, I'm going to work on like a soap commercial basically for the weekend, for 48 hours. And, she's having this meeting with, Robert Shea, and he's like, yo, yeah, Chase has been working with us on this new glove. That's trouble in paradise if I ever saw it.
Well, and it goes right back to her dream at the beginning. He was working on the glove.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's when you're like, by this point in the movie, which is really, honestly, the first act still, is that's when you're getting all this meta stuff, and you're saying, what's real, what's not, like what's really going on, and they're finally starting to tell you right about now. Now she gets home, and her son has an episode during which he warns her in a voice not of his own, never sleep again. Worried, Heather asks Chase to come home. However, Chase falls asleep at the wheel on the way and dies supposedly in a car crash. And this is where he was on the set. She called him to come home, and the glove's in one scene, and you see it again, and it's not in the scene. And so that's when you catch the scene of Chase driving home and the glove, going through the actual seat and literally just tapping on his dick. This little
it was like
little
it's like doop doop. Hello.
It's like, do you have feeling down there? And then it was like, I'm going in for the kill. Like it wasn't even like like the whole, like I mentioned, Freddy likes to terrorize people. I mean, he just went straight for the kill. And I wish Bobby was here for this because he might have a little bit on it, and maybe you do too. Now, the way I've always looked at Freddy is like Freddy needs like kills to make himself stronger, basically, like souls. And I know it's generally the souls of children that make him stronger, but I think like any kill that he gets on his kill count, I guess, makes him stronger, as the movie progresses.
Yeah, I would say it's just the more fear he has and the more he kills, it heightens his power. It gives him more strength.
Yeah, because honestly, Freddy's never been a strong guy. Like, I mean, you've got your Michael Myers and you got Jason and everybody else, and they're like brutally strong. But Freddy's just this like wimpy dude with a glove. So when Heather goes to identify the body, it seems that there may have been more than meets the eye to the crash, which was made apparent by these claw-like marks that are on his chest. Which, when she went to the autopsy, like they only wanted to show her the face, and she saw like a little glimpse, of his chest. She's like, no, let me see the rest of it. And that's when you saw, Freddy's claw marks straight down his whole chest. So Dylan now is also grief-stricken and continues to act even more strangely. She enlists Wes Craven's help for making more sense of what's been happening, and Craven explains that he does not know much more than what she does. He dreams a scene or two each night and wakes up and writes them down. Craven goes to tell on that in the script he's been writing pure evil that can be temporarily defeated if its essence is effectively captured in a work of art that is able to allow evil to express itself. Here we go with this meta shit again.
Before you get too much further, can we go back to the morgue when she goes and looks at the body?
Yeah.
Like, I've never been to a morgue.
Yeah.
But like they just had random ass bodies laying in the hallway and shit. Like that drove me nuts.
All right. So I used to work for a furniture delivery company. Like we did like high-end office furniture. And the dock to load this furniture was in the same cold room that they kept all the dead bodies at.
That's
and
weird.
they just had them laying out on those like stainless steel tables, obviously with plastic bags on top of them. But we're literally breaking in like 40 to 100 something like high end chairs through like this cold room, and I was creeped out. There's a dude literally in there. This place, I think it's called Mary, Meri. It's over in Memphis. I'd have to look it up, and hopefully if I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. What they do is they try like new prosthetics on John Doe's and Jane Doe's and stuff like that. So like if you needed, I guess, like a knee, replacement, they're going to put it in that and see how it works before they put it in a human, a living body. But there's a dude in there. It almost reminded me of, is that Gone in 60 Seconds? Where he's in there and he's like eating a sandwich and working on them, the bodies.
Yes.
No, yes. The big dude, the English actor dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I cannot tell you how real life that scene is in that movie because there's a dude in there rocking out to Guns N' Roses. I remember it too much because at that time I'm like asking him like, what do they do here, And he's talking about how they, try the prosthetics on these bodies and shit. And I was just like, I never want to come back here. Like, and we had a pickup for a chair one time, and I was like, yo, Clayton, I was like, you got to go pick up this chair. I'm not doing it, man.
Yeah, it drove me nuts that she was wandering around the fucking morgue like they're in there like sawing up people and shit. And she's like, hey guys, I'm over here.
Yeah, and it's weird because this is supposed to be real life, not the movie like we've been seeing. Like if you go back and like I watched this movie, then I went back and rewatched one, and I went back and watched three, and then I went back and rewatched this one just to get like to make the whole meta feel like it's supposed to. And so like I portrayed one and three like they were only movies. And so when when you're putting her in this environment, I mean it is like if I'd be a little bit more off putting than she was, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. That struck a nerve for me a little bit.
And so this is where you got to really listen to what Wes Craven was talking about. He goes, Craven explains that the evil has taken the form of Freddy Krueger because it is a familiar one. Freddy sees her as the gatekeeper who holds Freddy at bay, since Heather's character, Nancy, defeated Freddy in the first movie, who in turn eliminated Nancy in the third, but still couldn't be released. To Freddy, it is Heather that gave him the character of Nancy, her fortitude. Freddy is attacking her at her weakest points, trying to break down before confronting her, prompting her to leave just as confused as when she was arrived. And so, not even trying to get into like the third movie that goes back in this is like, so like in the Dream Warriors, basically anybody that it was basically like a team of them, beat the shit out of Freddy in a small way, and they all had like superpowers when they went to sleep. So like, you would think that by this time, even though this is real life, Nancy would, if she was knowing that this is real, she would be like, all right, in my dreams, what's my new superpower? You got to find it out, but you're going to figure it out eventually.
Yeah,
So,
she almost like she didn't even pay attention to anything that happened in any of the movies that she was in. Like if it's meta enough that it's following Freddy lore, and she's just like, nope, this is real life.
yeah, because in the third one, Patricia Arquette, she's a freaking like gymnast in her sleep, and the black dude, I can't remember his name, but he had super strength. And then the one dude that supposedly killed Freddy off, could scream really loud. And, just Nancy's just Nancy. She's just, I guess her superpower is being brave.
Yeah. I am Captain Brave.
Yeah, pretty much. With our powers combined, we can defeat Freddy. So, after a short sleep in Dylan's room, Heather wakes up to discover Dylan is gone. She goes downstairs and finds Dylan in another episode. And he's watching her original work. So, Heather finally takes Dylan to the hospital where a doctor asks if Dylan has said anything during his trance. And Heather says no, but the doctor lady gets it out of her that Dylan's been doing Freddy-like actions and singing Freddy's theme. So later, Julie,
Wait,
Dylan's
pause.
baby, pause.
That's another thing that annoyed the shit out of me. And she's at the doctor's office with him, and she
Yeah.
looks at him and she goes, baby, can you hear me? And then he shakes his head no.
That's I will say one thing though. The lady that pays the doctor, her name is Dr. Hefner, which that lady plays that role pretty good, being a concerned doctor, which I liked about that. And her name is obviously a pun that they use, which the Hefner is somebody in the MPAA that obviously had an issue with Wes Craven, so he used that as a name in this film, which is kind of neat.
The nurse that come in, did you recognize her?
The lady that's been in almost every horror movie to ever been created in the whole entire world.
Yeah, like she's like one of the main people in like the Insidious movies now.
Yeah. Her name's Lynn Shay, which I mean, she started off back in like the 70s, I think, like actually making films in that era. So her first movie ever was called Hester Street, and her role was a whore.
She's credited in the original Nightmare on Elm Street as well.
Yeah, there's like a lot of kickback. So like even the scene at the funeral, there you've got two of the other people, which was the I think his name's Rob there was the dude that is like ended up hitting and playing jokes in the first film. He's in there. The one that was dating Tina. He's in the scene of the funeral, and so is another person. So I mean, there's a lot of like callbacks, but you really got to pay attention to know who all these people are.
That's funny. I didn't realize that.
So Julie, Dylan's babysitter, shows up at the hospital and tells Heather that she had had a nightmare about him too. So soon, these two nurses want to sedate Dylan, but Julie had been instructed by Heather not to let Dylan fall asleep, and while she goes home to get Rex. Now, this scene right here, when Julie punches that nurse, like Dylan's face, I need to find like a clip of this, is just amazing. Like, it's good acting because it's like a full like shock, like, oh my god, like she really hit her, like scenes where a lot of the other acting, we mentioned earlier, is a lot portrayed in like a slower pace.
Yeah, the kid does a really good job. I don't know what he's doing now that he's grown up, but as a kid actor, he was really good.
And the nurse that actually she punched, well, the other one with a needle. So the one that actually stabbed Dylan in the arm with the needle is actually Wes Craven's daughter.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So at that time they locked the door, and meanwhile Heather had tried to leave but had been stopped by security guards to be questioned by the doctor.
Did you see where they stopped her?
Nuh-uh.
They took her in. They took her into the dispensary to question her.
Okay, yeah.
I was just like, really? Like, out of all the places in this hospital, you're going to take her into the dispensary?
So the doctor suspects that Heather's insane and tries to get her to agree to foster care. I mean, this is all in like one night, I'm like, this is a lot going on. So at this time, Dylan drifts off to sleep, and Freddie appears in the locked hospital room, and brutally slays Julie. And this is your throwback to the first one, where this is the same death that Tina got, where like he drags her up the wall and all that stuff and kills her in the bedroom. The scene where he kills Julie is almost identical. The nurses unlock the doors and discover that the murder is in progress, and they run, but Heather is concerned where Dylan went the whole time because Dylan obviously sleepwalks. So the doctor realizes that Heather is right, and Heather starts heading home, where she previously confirmed Dylan by telling him that home is right across the freeway from the hospital. And she discovers a giant Freddy dangling Dylan above traffic in the freeway, which this scene was so green screened. Like a lot of the scenes in this movie, you could tell were like some CGI, but like this green screen was like a pure like, hey, we're gonna let you know this is pure green screen on this one.
Yeah, it was really 90s green screen special effects obvious.
And that LA traffic, I'm sorry, like Dylan and Heather would have been dead. Like nobody's swerving; they're just gonna hit you.
It took like 20 minutes, not that long, like 20 seconds for like people to actually start stopping. Like people were just driving by.
And then you get the semi truck that, kind of like jackknifes, and obviously she goes underneath it, which is almost like an action scene that you get. And at that time, Dylan's obviously scurried off to home during the whole time. So she arrives home and finds Dylan there. But Freddie begins to manipulate the world around her by causing her to become Nancy. Basically, the guy that portrays her dad in the films, John Saxon, is at this point, he is in the movie, but he's portraying her dad now. I mean, like everything's becoming the movie and not real life anymore. So like he's referring to her as Nancy, and she's like kind of figuring out that she has to, call him dad and not by John, because he's like, who's John? So this time, the movie is like, I'm literally confused again. Like, where are we? In the movie, because the world is flipped.
Yeah, it's at that point that I was like, okay, well, we went another level deeper into the Inception here. We're on level 3.
And the thing is, like, they're outside, and she turns around, and the house is the house from Elm Street, the house in the original movie. It's no longer her L.A. house. So by forcing Heather to accept this role that she wants to play, basically she finds these pills that are thrown throughout the house, which is breadcrumbs. This movie becomes Hansel and Gretel.
Like
by this point.
like very, very forced Hansel and Gretel.
Like I felt a lot of the movie, they made kind of like insinuations towards it, but like at this point, Dylan's leaving these sleeping pills as breadcrumbs. And so, Nancy or Heather, we're going to call her Nancy now because that's what she's going by. follows these breadcrumbs up to her bed, and she's like, "Oh, let me eat these so I can come, and get into this dream with Dylan."
Yeah, and I'm sorry if you eat that many sleeping pills, you're gonna have some problems more than Freddy.
Yeah, yeah, you're not waking up. Like you're gonna end up having to get your stomach pumped eventually. But so she goes in and gets into the bed to go to join Dylan on this lucid dream. The final showdown with Freddy to save an already captured Dylan. Well, this is a lot right here is when the movie gets really cool on a lot of the settings and everything else. She's sliding down the bed, and it seems like almost she's going through like an air duct, and then it's through like a sewer, and then she falls into like a pool.
Yeah, she goes down into Freddy's hell essentially.
Yeah, yeah. It basically almost looked like she was on a Sonic the Hedgehog level, and just went straight down a hole. But so at this time, Freddy lures Dylan into a trap and tries to attack him vigorously, which is kind of like an oven, which is more Hansel and Gretel. It's like we talked about. It's getting then Freddy even makes notions about I want to say he talked about, was it a gingerbread cookie or something like that?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Oh, where is it? I got it right. I thought I had it, but we're obviously there's like I said, Hansel and Gretel stuff. And this time he's starting to extend his arm. But here's the thing about Freddy. If you're in his dream world, he should be stronger and faster. Like his arm is trying to extend out to get Dylan, but it's like it's moving like one frame a second. It is the slowest stretch ever. And the thing is he doesn't have there's not a big kill count in this movie. So we talked about Freddy getting his powers. It's not there because you've got the two production guys in the beginning of the movie. You've got the boyfriend Chase. You've got the babysitter, and that's really it. If you want to count Rex as a death, the dinosaur, that's fine. But I mean, he was an actual living, being, even though he supposedly protected Freddy, which I would like to have seen that, kind of like in the dream world if he became real. But would he have been like the T-Rex from Toy Story? I mean, that's the only way I can picture it, I mean, I'm sorry. That's the way it is. So at this time, Heather, aka Nancy, has a knife and she ends up stabbing Freddy in the back. And it kind of like, gets him away from Dylan for a second. So Dylan gets out of the trap at this time because Freddy is extending out his tongue to wrap around her face the whole time, which from my understanding, she said like this is the one scene that she did not like doing. And if you go back on previous films, Freddy films, it seems like Freddy has a tongue fetish. Like he has tied people up with his tongue. He licked his tongue out of the phone in the first one. Like, and if Wes Craven doesn't want to make this a comical like thing, quit fucking using his tongue as like an object. It just revolve around the claw.
Very, very sexually innuendoed.
Yeah, but it's also very, I mean, and that gets with the whole child molester, however the story goes with them. But the thing is, like, if you really wanted to keep this as a horror film, like, Freddy's stretching arm, like Stretch Armstrong, he doesn't need that. Don't give him those powers. Just give him the glove and let that be it. And so at this time, Dylan finds the knife and stabs Freddy's tongue, and that's when they shove him in the lit furnace. Now, I'm going to pull another time out. If you're Freddy Krueger and you were burnt, right? Why would you even have any fire down there at all? That's obviously going to be like one of your weaknesses.
Cause it's cold during the winter, man.
I guess so. His little inferno place down there. So basically, they push him into the furnace and he catches on fire in a true Hansel and Gretel type ending. So he's blown. He basically catches on fire, and like his whole Roman Greek empire that he lived in, which is what it looked like as they're running away, just starts deteriorating and blowing up. So they jump in the water and they just kind of like pop out, and it's basically the end of the movie.
Yeah, they pop out the bottom of the bed, and then it's like, oh, hey,
let's read the script.
There's a script. Where'd that come from? Let's read it.
He's like, Mommy, is that a story? And that's basically it.
It's a meta movie.
It's so meta though, it loses itself more than once, twice, three times, because like it might be a good movie, but I think there was some issues with the writing and but it could be just confuse you. And like I'm sitting here still confused after I've, talked about this movie, 100 times.
It tries too hard to be too smart in too many spots.
It does. But the best thing about it, like I mentioned, like we talked about Scream, it opened up the door for all these movies like Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer, all those. I mean, it changed the whole horror realm aspect. I mean, other than this movie, I mean, I think it's out of if I was to only capture, like I mentioned, 1, 3, and 7, which this one becomes 7 in the series. I mean, it's probably one of the best because it takes you out of the whole and becomes I hate to say the word meta again. I mean, I'm just gonna have to say meta 1,000 more times.
Yeah, I mean that's really what they were going for though, was is trying to be so meta that everybody knew it was meta.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did this, 10 years later, not when the Dream Warriors came out in '87, because if this would have came out only 3 years after the original, I don't think they would have been able to capture anything like they did with this one, from CGI or even the creativity on making that glove metal. Honestly, if this movie started off with that metallic metal glove and that was the whole thing, I would have liked that whole movie.
It wasn't bad either. It stepped on itself too many times, like trying to be too smart for me to like it as much as I wish I would have.
Yeah, and this movie didn't really have a great box office like winnings. Like I said, the budget was only 8 million. It only made 19.7 million at the box office. But I think the biggest problem with that is, even though at this time you've got 7 Freddy Krueger films, I mean they're starting to become a little bland, and this was a fresh start to it, almost like a reboot in a way. But what else came out that weekend was Pulp Fiction. So you had this up versus Pulp Fiction, which was obviously a much better film. I mean, I'm gonna say it all day long. I mean, Pulp Fiction, changed a lot of the way that movies are done today. Anyway, with just the way Quentin Tarantino does films, or just the way that directors understand that and the way he's done with actors. But like I said, this is the 7th installment of this, so that's where we left on that.
Yeah, and like I said, it probably would have been better if I would have gone back and rewatched the other ones beforehand. So I would have got a lot more of like the little inside nods and the inside jokes and that kind of stuff. I didn't like how they basically like Robert England, however the fuck you say his name.
Yeah.
Like his character just disappeared. Like he was like, "Oh, I'm having crazy nightmares and I'm making paintings," and then he's gone. Like she
Oh
calls
yeah.
and she gets his voicemail that he's gone and he doesn't know when he'll be back, and then that's it. Like you never hear from him again.
Yeah, I mean, because basically the whole thing is all about Heather and Dylan, which is fine, but I understand that you brought in Wes Craven, you brought in all these other actors for this, but I almost feel like you're wasting their time, even though we obviously know that he's playing Freddy in the film, and this Freddy looks really cool. I mean, and I like to believe, since they talk about how it is like a demon that's taken over the Freddy's way, that's why he doesn't look 100% like the Freddys that we've seen in the past. Which we all know that you're a Freddy fan from, obviously, your pictures you had taken last year.
Yeah, our Halloween pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so and it worked out too. Like the original ones that we found were supposed to be like people had done Michael Myers, and I was like, man, fuck that. I want to do Freddy. That was real fun. I still
Yeah,
got that. We'll probably do those
are
again.
great.
Honestly,
That's awesome. Maybe you'll have to up the to the next year, Freddy.
I was trying to look and see if there was any like goofs or stuff that we could add to it.
I didn't really catch a lot. I mean, I spent a lot of time, like I mentioned, rewatching this. Like I watched this movie twice, ended up watching 1 and 3 just to kind of feel the aspect. Which is, I mean, there are some good quote lines in here. Like right before they killed the babysitter, Freddy goes, "You ever play Skin the Cat?" Which those are some fun ones. And then when they're down in his little lair or whatever, Freddy says to Heather, he goes, "Pick a pet for the Rugrat, bitch." I mean, there's some good lanes, but Freddy's favorite word is bitch, obviously. It always has been. and that's what I even like about Scary Terry and Rick and Morty. How it's just every other word is bitch, 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 bitch. Yeah. So what Freddie said when I mentioned about the whole Hansel and Gretel to him, he goes, "Come here, my piggy. I've got some gingerbread for you." So obviously the piggy, talking about feeding the kid, making him fatter, gingerbread, because you cooked it in the house. So like I said, this is really just Hansel and Gretel. It's not Freddy.
On IMDb, it says that they intentionally left out the opening titles on the film as to blur the illusion of whether it was a film, a documentary, or something else altogether.
That makes sense. I mean, even on like Rotten Tomatoes, this got 80% on the tomato meter and a 66 on the audience score. So I mean, they're not saying that it's bad. I mean, it's an intelligent film. I'll say that much.
Yeah, and like I said, my biggest problem with it is it's too smart for its own good.
You want to get into some rankings for this then?
We can.
I think we're due time for it. So Micah, on this wonderful episode that we've had about Wes Craven's New Nightmare, even though we didn't get to bring Bobby in, I'm gonna shed a tear for you, pour out a little for my homies. In this ranking system that we have, our wonderful 5-tier system, you got your glass case up top, you got your top shelf, your middle shelf, your bottom shelf, and that wonderful little basket, or what like you like to call the hole in the wall now. Where are you going to put this movie in your collection if you're going to keep this movie?
I really want to go middle shelf just because of what it done for setting up for future movies. Like as far as like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and all that other stuff, like I want to go middle shelf, but I've got to go bottom shelf just because there's so many continuity errors and there's so many like story holes or plot holes that it drives me crazy. I can't get it to bump up to the next tier because I feel like I was watching Inception but as a scary movie, but at parts they wanted you to know it was Inception, but then other parts they're like, no, act like it's a real movie. Like I don't know. It was just it was all over the place. Kind of like my ranking. I mean, it just jumped around all over the fucking place. So I guess bottom shelf. I'm gonna stick with bottom shelf. What about you?
I got you. So I know this movie was my win from Battlemania, and honestly, like I would love to do the faculty sometime. So I hope you get to reuse that. I hope you when we get a horror film genre again, and it's that time. Please put it back up. If not, if you don't, I'll put it back up. Either or. Walking into this, after this one, I was like, man, I was really excited. That we got to do a Friday. A Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So, like I mentioned, I watched this twice. I watched 1 and 3. And first of all, let me go ahead and say that probably out of all of them, the original is my favorite one. It always will be. Just it jump started it all off. But I'm gonna have to agree with you and put this on the bottom shelf. My second time watching this, I fell asleep during almost the whole second act, even though I knew what was going on. The movie, like I mentioned, it's intelligent. I mean, it starts off like we talked about for Scream series and everything else, and it set the whole idea of bringing horror films into real life. Which that's risk. It was. We'll really say it's more of a Wes Craven thing, but obviously this goes to the bottom shelf for me because even though I rewatched this twice, it might be one of the last times I ever see it, for a very, very, very long time, which I would pick the original Nightmare on Elm Street over this to rewatch any of them anytime.
I guess that wraps it up for Freddy as far as this one's concerned.
I mean, it's rare that we even have a tie sometimes. So, I mean, even like I said, this was my pick for Battlemania, and it won. Like I mentioned, I was like, after going back and reliving it, and I remember Mike Lanham when he was on our episode, it's like, oh, once you see one Freddy, do you need to see all of them?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
I mean, it is very Sarah. Like for me, and that's out of anything that he said, in that episode, like that's something I I remembered very much about that because like it kind of like embedded into my mind. I was like, you're actually right. Like it does. Like you only need to talk about it once.
Well, I guess we can go ahead and start wrapping this bitch up.
Yep. Let me put my pants back on real quick.
Boring. If you made it this far, of course, we want to say thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, you were at least mildly entertained. If not, come back next time. We'll try again.
Yeah, or just call that number, call this number, and tell us why we suck.
Yeah, if you want to be one of those people who call and tell us why we suck, that number is 470-DIGITAL. It's 470-344-4825. You can also leave a voicemail talking about anything you want or about one of our episode topics. We always listen to our voicemails after the outro music and respond to those in real time. If you enjoy a lot of our shit that we talk about, anything that we cover, you can always find us at our Facebook page. That's digitalcartridgepodcast.com. There are links on there at the top of the page to help support us by going to our Patreon. You get access to a ton of backlog content for as little as $1. You can also purchase t-shirts on there that help support us as well. And then, of course, we have all the links to all of our social media, where we're at, where you can follow us, all that good stuff. And if you're a Facebook person, the Digital Cartridge Podcast Facebook page is nonstop. So get on that train.
Yeah, it's been a crazy weekend. Like my phone, I just had to keep it on charge from all the just crazy pop-ups. Like if this is what fame is like, I don't want it. I don't want it.
We also have 2 different private groups on Facebook to where you can go in and on Digital Cartridge Underground, you can get some of the stanky stank dank memes that aren't safe for the public. And then if you want to get on any of that wrestling talk, if you're a wrestling boy, you can look up From the Top Rope. That is our wrestling group on there.
I was gonna say, I don't know if anybody listens with iHeartRadio, but I know that we're on there now. So that was a nice little add-on that we got too.
Do we have any new 5 stars or Patreons or anything like that?
No, but I do know that we do have some new followers on Twitch. I don't have all their names listed up, but I mean, we have been doing the little, share for share. So like, even our buddies over at Experience Grind, which I know Kyle's been on that whole Resident Evil 2, for the trying to hit up on that, that records over there. We're auto hosting a lot of his runs for him and stuff. The same thing with Street Pizza when they play and whatnot. And like, a wonderful guest that we had, Paul from What's Paul Playing Today. We ought to host his stuff too when we're not, uploading shit on our own.
There was I ate lunch with a buddy 2 or 3 weeks ago, my buddy Dave, and he said, yeah, you remember one of those 5-star reviews and nobody knew where the fuck it come from? That was me.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. Like even like these voicemails, if you don't tell me who you are, if I don't have your number in my phone book, I have no idea who it is sometimes.
Do you want to go ahead, even though Bobby wasn't able to be on the episode with us, do you want to plug his stuff for him?
Yeah, Bobby has his own YouTube page. It's called Universe Retro. He's over on YouTube and on Facebook. I'll have links to that in the show notes for you.
And then I guess we can go ahead and tell everybody what we're going to be covering for our episode next.
Yeah, which is actually would be the 3rd release of Game Informer magazine, which covers Lemmings for the Super Nintendo. This is the January-February issue of 1992. So I will be honest, I've never played a Lemmings game in my life, I don't think. And if I did, it was probably on PC, and I don't remember 2 shits about it. But now that I say that, I'm probably thinking about Worms, which Worms is fucking awesome, and I don't know shit about Lemmings, actually.
The whole time I've been thinking about Worms, too. Now I'm going to have to actually sit down and put some time into it.
Yeah. Well, I want to play some Worms now. Like, I want to, like, blow shit up. I'm like, man, I was looking at him, I was like, nah, Worms is so much better.
All right, I'm fucking yawning. Let's get the fuck out of here. That's my bedtime.
Because Freddy's going to get in that ass later.
1, 2, I need to go to bed after I screw.
No, okay, all right.
Bye!
I'm out this bitch. All right, like I mentioned, this first voicemail, it's a little choppy. Get what you can take from it.
Hello, big fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. Especially enjoy New Nightmare pretty cool. Liked how they dared to be different with it, and loved the glove.
Exactly. I mean, from what I got from it, he liked the glove, and I mean, they did do something different, which is 100% true. I mean, this was like almost like reaching out on a limb. It's like, hey, let's try this.
If you love the glove, then you can glove the love. I don't know what I was trying to do there.
All I know is I want to turn my power glove into a Freddy Krueger glove.
Now you're playing. I screwed that up.
Now you're playing with power, bitch.
Yeah, that's what I was going for, and I
Yeah,
screwed
okay.
it all up.
All right, so we got 2 more voicemails. Here's the next one.
Hey y'all, this is Ryan Martell from Martell's Movie Madness. Just calling in because you guys posted about Freddy on Facebook, and I love Freddy Krueger. He's the man. New Nightmare is probably one of my favorites of the franchise. It's a precursor to one of my favorite movies of all time, Scream, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. Thank y'all for playing my shit on the, oh shit, hopefully I can cuss on here, but thank y'all for playing my voicemail on the show. Hopefully, yeah, peace.
That guy gets it. He understood it. He knows about the whole Scream series and being a precursor and everything else. The guy, he gets it 100%.
We need a cheap plug whistle like toot toot.
I want to reach out to that. I'm gonna find Ryan because he mentioned what his page was, Martell Magic or whatever. I want to reach out to him and figure out some more stuff about that page. So, like I said, his link will be in the show notes.
Yep. Thanks for listening, homie.
Thanks, man. Here's our last voicemail.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Bobby from Universe Retro. I was supposed to be on the episode, but due to PC issues, obviously I'm not. But I hope you guys have a great episode. New Nightmare, rewatched it recently. Really enjoyed it. I'll be honest, the first half of the movie I was kind of bored. There was a lot of setup. But the end of it really kind of came together, and I really enjoyed it. Also watched it with my 9-year-old daughter, and she really dug it a lot too. So I love the meta aspect of it. But yeah, I wish I could have talked more about it. I'm sure the episode would be great, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.
I can tell that me and him were on the same page about the first half being boring. Like I mentioned, how I fell asleep the second time, and it obviously picks up towards the end. But I mean, the movie's got a giant build up. I mean, but it's also I think the movie's trying to figure out who it really is.
I'm sure the episode will be great. Nope, sorry, it sucked.
It sucked. It's because you weren't here, man. Like I'm just gonna get you to talk words on the phone, and I'm just gonna edit them in there.
Way to let everybody down.
I'm just gonna get Bobby to say yeah, yeah, for sure, and I'm just gonna like edit that in like every couple blips.
Just have it keep saying, yeah, you're right, Micah. Yeah, you're right, Sean.
I totally agree.
I agree with that point that you just made. It was 100% factual.
We're gonna need a Universe Retro Bobby soundboard. So other than that, man, like I said, Bobby, we're gonna get you back on. We're gonna get that those mic issues fixed for you. But other than that, man, it's off to the next episode.